And opinions expressed by the hosts and guests of the Side Project Live are not necessarily those of LRN.FM, Tuiville, the Illinois Libertarian Party, and a bunch of other people.
We'd like to invite you and all the members of your household
to gather around and join us now
for a very special episode of
Side Project Live. And what's so special about it?
I'm not wearing any pants.
And welcome once again, everybody, to another episode of Side Project Live from Morris, Illinois. This is Jimmy G.
Hey, Jimmy G. And from Lockport, Illinois, it's Eric Ferguson.
And today on Side Project, we're going to be winging it. Sing along.
No.
Somebody be winging it. For those who watch South Park, this is the wing.
My wife, she precious flower. The fire in this eyes and the words are really clear. So baby, just baby, you better.
Finally.
Oh, man.
It was either this one or Hell's Bells. Wow.
Breaking black, I hate the sack. I've been too long, I'm glad to be back. Yes, I have let loose from the noose that had me hanging about. I keep looking.
And she's a real person. She's got several albums out. She's got this really awesome original song called Safe Computer. Safe Computer! Oh, the video is freaking hilarious. And there's another song, I can't remember what the name of it is, but she does it with special guest Rappy McRapperson.
Ooh.
Right. So, how have you been?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Well, that's good.
I got cat fur flying around over here. All right. Yeah, so anyway, to answer your question before we went to air, you were asking about your microphone.
Yeah, I'm having some problems here.
What happens is your sound card on the computer, unless you have a special one, is designed for consumer line level input.
Right.
And your mixer typically offers professional line level output, and it is much louder. And so it's really easy to overdrive your sound card, and that can cause your clipping. Even though the level that you've chosen in your little software mixers and stuff like that, feeding your things, it might be 6 dB below full. Doesn't matter. The input's already gone to garbage because you've clipped the heck out of the input circuitry on the sound card.
Aha.
So
let me see if I got something here I can adjust. It
won't be in software. What you need to do is get either a little pad and knock that down, or if the mixer has a consumer line level output, and many of them do, use that instead. You use that instead. So if it has like a tape out, which is made to feed a cassette recorder, that would work. Some of them have a little...
I've got that on my mixer here, and that's what I'm using. That's what's got me kind of confused.
Yeah, well, maybe it's clipping someplace else. Or some of them have a little switch you can change for setting the output level. But yeah, the consumer gear is what's called -10 dBV, which is about 0.3 of a volt. and then the professional level is called +4, and that's about a 1 1/4 volts. So it's a lot of gain.
Hey, and look who joined us.
Yeah,
Rex,
Denny's
okay.
Purple.
welcome aboard.
Oh, thanks. Glad I finally got on. It was tough getting connected, but I finally made it. So, anyway, how's it going today?
And he's purple because the color temperature in the store is really bad. Are you sitting in front of the window getting the sun in?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it. Your camera is adjusted for the inside lights, but your face is lit by the sun. It doesn't match.
Oh, yep.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're being
that's
joined on the other
why
line
I-
by Grimace.
Hey,
Yeah.
it is working better than the internet at home, however, which is promising.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
that's weird.
popular hangout. I'm at the Starbucks. I'm at the Starbucks here at 10th Street and Girls School Road on the west side of Indianapolis. So,
There you go.
um,
I would seriously consider calling your internet service provider and going, fix it, because it should work better at home than it does at the Starbucks.
yeah, I know.
Fix it or I hate you. Man, look, missed out on all the fun. He missed out on the awesome music we played.
No,
don't,
all right.
don't play it again. It's okay. You can go back and listen to the replay.
Okay, I'm not going to go through.
Have you all seen that commercial where they play that Muzak version of that song "Back in Black" by AC/DC?
Oh yeah, it was no, it was the car commercial. He goes, he's like, there's somebody doing it like on a fiddle or something in the street. Then it's in the elevator, and then somebody else gets on the elevator. That guy gets off, and the music gets louder and louder until he gets into his car, and it's the actual song.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things that reminds me. I remember. I guess it was until like the late '80s, early '90s. In a lot of department stores, they played that Muzak stuff, where it would be contemporary songs, but done in an orchestral version. Where it was usually just awful. And then I actually found out why they stopped that, and I found out what happened is that the company Muzak actually started getting the licensing rights to actually play the original recordings of those songs rather than making their own recordings.
Right.
So,
But nothing will beat Pat Boone's album "In a Metal Mood."
It's
That
great.
is an awesome album because he had fun making it, and that's just all. And he had fun making it, and you have fun listening to it. And that's all it is. Hey,
It's a
by the
great
way,
album.
hey
It's
Eric,
great. It's a lot of fun. Take it for comedy value. Take it for the religious value. It's a fun record.
and
could you do
I
me a
also
favor real quick. Could you hold your cat like this, stroke his head, and pull your hat off? Because I
Oh,
want
Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
What you did to Mr. Bigglesworth? For those who are listening, his cat has sort of taken up perch on his shoulders.
Yeah, he's on the back of the
Kind of
chair.
looks like Mr. Bigglesworth. Well, no, not quite that furry, but before Mr. Bigglesworth lost his hair due to the unfreezing process.
That's right. Yeah,
But-
he loves the back of the chair for some reason.
if anybody ever wants to reminisce, go to YouTube, and there are actually a lot of videos where they just play those old Muzak tapes. So
Oh,
if you
cool.
want to hear what it was like being in a department store until about 25 years ago.
The only thing goofier than that is years ago, wow, maybe 20, 25 years ago, I was at home watching, what the heck was the show? I don't know. It was something. It was on the Nashville Network. It was one of those country line dancing shows.
Oh yeah.
And they're country line dancing to "You Can't Touch This."
Yeah. I remember there was one of those in Louisville, Kentucky, and back around the time when it was a huge song, they actually danced to the Macarena.
Oh dear Lord! I'm glad that fad is gone.
Now, what
Yeah.
works, and I've done this at doing a mobile DJ event at a wedding, is line dance to Jay Giles' band Centerfold. The tempo's perfect. It works great.
Oh, never thought about that. Yeah.
That works great.
Before we go any further, you can contact us through our Google Voice number, 815-200-4912. You can tweet us at TheSideProject2. Our email is thesideproject2@gmail.com. You can hashtag us at hashtag TSPLive. And I got some more stuff to read by the end of the show. So you got something to look forward to. Now, there was something I was going to bring up real quick here.
Before we get into the meat of the show, is it okay if I say something on a personal note?
Sure.
Okay. Well, for those of you who've been following my Facebook page, you know, as you might know, my stepmother, Lorna K. McAtee, died on Easter Sunday at 9:10 p.m. at her home, and it's well known that for the bulk of the 33 years that we knew each other, including the 31 years that she was my stepmother, that she and I had a strained and distant relationship, and thankfully, in the last several months during her illness with pancreatic cancer, which later spread to her liver and her lungs, she and I finally did make peace with each other, and we spent the last few months of her life really just finally starting to get to know each other simply as Kay and Lek, or Stephen as she knew me, and without seeing each other, you know, under the label of the wicked stepmother, or her seeing me as Janice's son, you know, the son of her husband's ex-wife. And so I wrote a piece of it that I posted on my Facebook page a couple of days ago called Finding Peace with My Stepmother, and I just hope everybody will read it and that it will inspire people to work on their strained relationships while there's still time to do so.
Go ahead.
Indeed.
Go for it.
Indeed. Here.
That's all.
Oh,
that was it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to read it. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah,
No, but I hope it could take a few minutes, but I hope everybody will read it on their own time. And that
Okay, yeah, so just go to, if you're not a friend of Lek Zorn on Facebook, just search him out and go ahead and friend him, and you can see it there. And
yeah,
go ahead and friend any of us. You know, I'm not really too picky about who I accept.
as
for my
long as you're
Facebook friends.
as long as you're not a spammer, you know, I'm cool with it, you know. And
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It depends on what you consider a spammer, because I've been promised a lot of money from some prince in Nigeria, and that's got to be legit.
I'm not joining, and I'm not joining your mafia, your farm, or your candy game. It's not happening.
You know what's really odd, you know,
And I'm already married. Thank you.
yeah, and you know what's really odd is that there are times like for example, I get the same game request hundreds of times from the same person, and I know these people personally. I can't imagine they're intentionally sending me that many requests. You know, so I don't know what's up with that.
Joe Schmo would like you to. Joe Schmo needs $20,000 to upgrade his outhouse on Poopville. You know, those farm games need a lot of manure. I don't think they realize that sharing all that stuff is manure. I will say this though. I am hopelessly addicted to Dice with Friends, or Dice with Buddies. I can't remember. It's one of those. I think it's Dice with Buddies on Facebook. So I don't mind getting requests for that one because I like that game because it's Yahtzee.
I play Words with Friends, and
did you see they made a Words with Friends board game?
No.
I remember it 30 years ago when it was called Scrabble.
Yeah, well, you can play Scrabble.
And the board is the same dang layout.
Yeah, you can play Scrabble online also. There is a Scrabble game.
What's up with... I'm surprised the people that did the Words with Friends thing didn't get sued all the way back to the Stone Age for that. Because all of these Scrabble ripoff games have the same dang board layout. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, well,
it's not.
Words with
Friends
Friends
a little bit.
Yeah, Words with Friends.
Okay.
What I found out is that games themselves are not copyrightable. Sometimes specific rules are. Yeah, but if you look at Words with Friends to Scrabble, the bonus tiles are in different places, and the point values are slightly different of the tiles.
Ah, okay. Yeah, they do just enough.
Yeah.
To keep it from infringing on patents or whatever.
The name, the packaging, you know, that kind of stuff. That, you know, has copyrights and patents and, you know, Maker's Marks and all that stuff, but yeah, the actual game itself does not.
Maker's Mark of fine whiskey, by the way.
There you go.
Actually, I don't have that right now. What do I have? Oh, I got a bottle of Gentleman Jack sitting over here on the shelf. Oh, there you are. I've only taken one drink out of it so far. I bought it like 2 weeks ago.
No early times.
I have not had early times. One that I tried that I just didn't care for was Southern Comfort, but then somebody told me that's one that you're supposed to actually mix with other things. That's not a straight drinking bourbon.
It's sweet and it's different. So
I like what do they call it? I think it's Red Stag. It's put out by Jim Beam. They got a honey infused one, and then they got a black cherry infused one. The black cherry infused one is freaking awesome.
Nah, I'll pass.
Hey, there's nothing better though than just Just having it with an ice cube though. It was funny. Is it Fred No, Booker No? I can't remember. One of the No brothers, who was the former or the head of the Jim Beam Company, said that the proper amount of bourbon to pour in a glass is 3 fingers. Fortunately, I have big fingers.
Right on. I prefer Scotch, but that's okay.
I've never had Scotch. I've been wanting to try that.
Well, get yourself some Glen Rothes. It's hard to beat at that price.
Glen Rothes.
Glen Rothes. Very difficult to beat at that price.
I saw this thing on TV. It might have been Penn and Teller's bullshit. They were doing a thing about wine tasting and wine experts in that, and they took a bunch of wines, some higher priced ones, and some like $2 bottles off of the bargain bin. And they pulled all the labels off, and when the tasters tasted the wine, they gave some really scathing reviews to some of the ones that they've actually given high reviews to in the past, and the bargain ones pretty much all got great reviews.
Yeah, they did that on the fast food show, if you remember. They took like a bunch of stuff from KFC and just, take breaded chicken, chop it up, pour the same KFC gravy on it, serve it on a plate, and people are like, hey, this is great.
Yep.
It's just KFC.
There's very little out there that really lives up to the hype, and the only thing I found in recent time is Hardee's has got a El Diablo burger, which is horrible spicy. It's really good, but it's horrible expensive.
There you go.
So,
yeah, I mean, look, I'm a hi-fi nut, and you'll see all kinds of crazy stuff. The amount of woo around the hi-fi world is just ridiculous.
Well, Cecil Adams over at the Straight Dope did a whole thing about these people that are selling these like 6-foot-long cables and charging like several $100s for them.
Yeah.
And the thing is that they're no better than the regular.
No, it's nonsense. Cryogenically treated speaker cable. It's been frozen. And that's
they put it next to the peas. That's
supposed to align the molecules in the wire somehow. And, oh, come on. It's so ridiculous.
Which begs the question, it begs the question about woo, and it's like some woo is like all what's the word I'm looking for? Some people consider that some woo is legitimate and others is off its rockers. When it's all pretty much off its rockers, it doesn't matter if it's food, vaccines, or audio cables.
Yeah. No, look, speakers and microphones and stuff, there are better and worse. It's just that simple. If you want to buy, expensive stuff for your house, that's fine. There's a practical limit because it just doesn't get any better than X, whatever that level is. It's absurd to spend that kind of money for speaker cable. It doesn't do anything. It's ridiculous. But one of the things I've seen recently is, I don't know if you've heard of the Pono player. It's this portable music player for really high resolution files, up to 192 kilohertz sample rate, which is 5 times what humans can hear anyway. It's absurd. In some blind listening,
maybe your dog wants to enjoy the music.
It's beyond what dogs can hear. It's no, it's silly. And I'm all for high resolution audio. I love it. But in blind listening tests between the Pono and like an iPod, most people preferred the iPod. It doesn't mean that the Pono doesn't sound better, and maybe you need the right headphones and the right ear and all that sort of thing. I get that, but you spend a lot of money for this thing, and it arguably isn't any better. And then you get stuff like, the Tiger Lily. I don't want to listen to that album ever, let alone in high resolution.
And our headphones have been personally shipped to Africa, where they had a dead chicken waved over them by an authentic shaman. So it's good.
Some of the stuff is great. I listen to the high resolution, mixes of things, and some of it is fantastic. Other stuff I have no use for. It's ridiculous. Again, I don't want to listen to Natalie Merchant's Tiger Lily in high res ever. So, it's silly. Stuff like Beck. It's interesting, but his music is so noisy anyway. I mean, it's like, road noises pumped into the mix just to make it busier. I don't know if high resolution really helps that. So, I don't know.
I have got to find. On the album version of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, they had an introduction. Oh, gosh, I got to find it. Holy Grail.
Yeah, we do have a few things to talk about today for real too.
But I gotta find this. I mean, this.
I'm not sure.
Here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Oh, it's been blocked. Oh, thank you, YouTube. Let's see if I got one more here.
That's all right. Google.
I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it because it's awesome. Because the hole in the hole has been punched exactly in the center of your album, and it has been designed to fit exactly perfectly onto your spindle for the highest in listening quality and stuff like that. It was awesome. And then at the very end of the intro, Graham Chapman farts. And then on the intro of her side too, it goes, "We wish to apologize to the purchasers of the executive version of this album. The brusque tone at the end of the previous introduction was meant for purchasers of the cheaper version."
Yeah.
Hey, but you had something you wanted to talk about. What you got for us?
Well, there's a handful of things, and you mentioned some stuff too. One is just a piece of curiosity for anyone libertarian-minded or perhaps just interested in what they have to say, is the head of Overstock.com, one of the largest internet retailers and an innovator of some of those things. Patrick Byrne is on Reason TV with a interview with Nick Gillespie, and talking about his libertarian worldview. There's a guy who's head of a big company that is at least small L libertarian. He's a big proponent of school choice. They accept Bitcoin, and Overstock accepts Bitcoin, and how he opposes things like taxes on internet sales and net neutrality. And he talks about how he got there. Despite being taught quite the opposite in his college economics class, he would listen to the words of Milton Friedman, and read a paper at the Cato Institute and go, my college professor is wrong, and the light went on, and next thing you know, Overstock.com accepts Bitcoin. So it's a pretty interesting interview, despite Nick Gillespie's dryness. Good stuff.
Nick Gillespie is extremely knowledgeable, and I like him, but yeah, he can be extremely, extremely dry.
Yeah. I like him a lot too, but yeah, he can certainly be dry. And then, so that's just a piece of curiosity. You can go to Reason TV, it's reason.com, and find their thing, and there's videos and stuff.
If I'm not mistaken, the guy that started up PayPal was a registered libertarian. I'd have to look that up, but I had heard that years ago. eBay owns PayPal now, so who knows in that front. But that's all good stuff. But it'd be interesting to know, because we need more people like that, and it comes back to campaign finance reform. I mean, we need to get all the corporate money out of elections and all blah, blah. You have to make it to where they can only spend this much. Corporations can only spend X amount of dollars on campaigns. And that. Yeah, well, you know what? Your party, your establishment parties, you guys got a buttload of contributors that if they each contribute like $2,500, you're going to make a lot of money. But we might have, like, if we're lucky, like 50, 60 contributors, and we're at an extreme disadvantage. And by promoting campaign finance reform, and I don't see why the Green Party doesn't see this. You're hampering the fundraising of third parties. I mean,
and themselves.
Just do the math.
Yeah, and themselves. There's a huge problem with that argument, and that is that the vast majority of businesses, are small businesses, and they are corporations. They're incorporated, they're LLCs, they're actual corporations, and they're forbidden by law from contributing to political campaigns. Yet, you say, well, we're not going to let corporations donate money, but organizations can. So you have the National Association of Huge Mega Conglomerate Pharmaceutical Companies. They can donate bajillions and bajillions of dollars, but Pfizer can't do it directly. So, you break what you wanted to fix in the first place.
So basically, in other words, for corporations, large and small, to donate money, you got to basically first put the money through a money laundering organization. Right. You're forcing them to launder the dang money.
Well, legal, but you have to funnel it through something else. So your local pizzeria cannot support their choice for president, but the Yum Foods can get together with Procter and Gamble, and they can form an organization and put $1 bajillion behind a candidate. So it's just a crazy thing.
Just another step, and it's another step. It costs money, and I don't have anything to back it up or any data or anything. Just my opinion. Just from it just seems to make sense that money's coming from somewhere, and it might be coming from the prices that you're paying in your products. It's not coming out of the CEO's pay.
There's that, and then there's the foolish ones that check the yes box on their tax return. Do you want to put some of your money in this fund? No!
Hey, Chef. Yes, no, no way, and hell no.
It's ridiculous. Oh, my. And then another thing that kind of hits home with us is what's going on in New Mexico.
Oh, yes. I've been hearing
this. Is cool. This is cool. Previously in New Mexico.
In New Mexico.
Yeah, which is one of the more free states, but in this one instance, not so much. They had the ability to seize your assets just because they felt like it. The police knock down your door, and they take your stuff in your car and your house and everything. You don't even have to be accused of a crime. If they get the wrong address on a drug raid, they steal all your stuff. So they just passed, the governor, Susan Martinez, signed House Bill 560. I forgot the number, into law, and that's the with a bunch of bipartisan support. The legislature loved it. They went through it. Reforms their asset forfeiture law. They now require a conviction before they can take your stuff.
Well, that's good. I didn't know about that, and
that makes sense.
And Eric, like you said, you stressed a few weeks ago, not on the show, but on a Facebook post, the importance of due process. That without due process, what we have is tyranny.
Yeah, we have nothing. I mean, due process is everything. We can argue about what our rights may or may not be. That's fine, but without due process, just the king decides and you lose, and that's it.
What's disgusting is I've seen pictures on Facebook, and I've seen them on the internet, and I think I might have seen one of these in person for real in my town of Morris. But every now and then you'll see a vehicle that says, "This money or this vehicle was seized from a drug user, a drug trafficker, or whatever," and that pretty much disgusts me. I mean,
they make it a big point to let you know that they took it from a drug user or dealer or whatever. Yeah, they do that all the time.
This vehicle was seized from somebody who kicked a puppy.
Yeah. The other thing that this law does, and this is an interesting piece, that's something that some people really find unique, is that the proceeds from the sale of your seized assets go into the general fund. They don't go into your sheriff's office that sold them at auction. They go into the general fund. The idea there being that it won't encourage law enforcement to just seize a bunch of stuff for the sake of collecting the money.
Well,
because they won't get all of it. They may get a portion of it, whatever they get funded. Yeah, whatever they get funded out of the general fund, but it's going to go to cover other things, not just for law enforcement.
Yeah, like Jim's baby steps is a good way to put it. Yeah,
but what I was also reading about what you were saying, Eric, is that in that same exact day, the governor of New Mexico did not vetoed a bill that would have made hemp legal in New Mexico.
Yeah, it was the last day of the session, so if she didn't sign it, then it just was going to die. And so, yeah, she opposed the legalization of pot. The thing is, though, and she also spoke out about the fear of this new bill and the ability to maybe make it more difficult to fight crime. I have a quote. Here it is. It is more critical than ever before that every county and municipality, as well as the state legislature, makes a stronger commitment to fully fund our law enforcement agencies so they can continue undertaking complex investigations, protecting the public, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, she's commented a couple of times about her, wanting to be tough on crime, which of course means being tough on drugs, and the example there is vetoing a pot legalization bill. So
it was a marijuana legalization that she vetoed?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's one of those things. I think we're probably going to, based on the precedents of Washington, Colorado, Oregon, and Alaska, we're probably going to have to get marijuana legalized primarily through ballot initiatives because the people, the American people, now I've seen as high as 58% of the people in the country now support marijuana legalization. And
well, as I've said before on the show, last election cycle, the Democrat who was running for sheriff here in Grundy County, he was going door to door, which, if you're coming to my house door to door, you've automatically gone up in my esteem. Me and him were having a talk about things that are issues that are important to me, and when I was asking him about legalization of drugs, the first thing he said was, "Well, pot legalization's coming anyway." So,
yeah.
He was pretty much resigned to that becoming legal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't really care for that attitude, though. Just like, oh, I'm just going to concede because what can I do about it? That's not cool.
yeah,
True.
And speaking of, you mentioned baby stuff. We got one pending in Indiana where there's a bill that's being considered now that would make possession of marijuana only a citable rather than arrestable offense. Obviously, it'd be much better to legalize it, but it's certainly a start to stop filling our jail space with people who are guilty of nothing more than possessing marijuana, which is a substance that by any legitimate measure is, not only less harmful than alcohol and tobacco, but probably half the stuff that we eat and drink every day.
Yeah, no kidding.
Hell, even that nutball Pat Robertson said that we need to look at legalizing marijuana because there's too many people in jail for smoking a joint.
Yeah, and he also.
So you're talking about this, 58% of the people, are behind it. That number is likely to grow as these places where it is legal or just citable and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where the fears that the drug haters, are about, when it doesn't come to fruition, when we don't have, your doctor's not stoned, when these things don't happen, I think that number of 58 will grow quite a bit more.
Oh yeah, and I mean you look at and I think you look at, for example, I saw on Fox News about a year ago. It was since legislation took effect, which was January 1st last year, and it was hysterical. They were trying to talk about that had resulted, and the thing is, there were no deaths. Obviously, because marijuana, it is physically impossible for a human being to consume enough marijuana to kill you. There was one person they found dead who they said had marijuana and other drugs in his system. And of course, I'd like to know what the other drugs were. I guarantee you, marijuana was the least harmful of them.
Well, here's the one thing about the arguments about marijuana being not harmful or less harmful. The less harmful might be a thing, but let's be honest here. Inhaling any sort of smoke into your lungs is probably not a good thing. That's why firemen tell you to keep to the floor when your house is burning.
Oh, yeah.
But even that having been said, what business is it of anyone's about what kind of smoke I put in my body?
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. And but to finish what Fox said about this, and they mentioned that there had been 9 hospitalizations, in 6 months. Now, the one dangerous thing about a little bit dangerous about what happened in Colorado is you had people who had never done marijuana before and started doing it when it became legal, and they would, for example, eat a whole chocolate bar, not understanding the dose that they're getting. And, but even then, it's not going to kill you. It might make you crash for 15 hours, but, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to make you go beat your wife,
go
ahead.
If you ate 6 pounds of pot, that might kill you.
Yeah, but I mean,
it might also kill you if it fell on top of you from a 10-story building.
Yeah, so there are people who've never smoked it before, who don't understand dosages. Yeah, who eat a whole bunch and don't know what they're doing, and they have a heavy crash. But nobody's died from it. I mean, and plus they mentioned 9 people had been hospitalized. Well, how many people in the first 6 months of 2014 were hospitalized for alcohol-related, for alcohol-related incidents?
Slip and fall. How many people were hospitalized for slip and fall? We need to outlaw standing on chairs.
Yeah.
Hell, the guy who created the Atkins diet died because he slipped on a patch of ice and hit his head on the ground. And you know what? And you say that pot has never killed anyone. Pot has never directly killed anybody. It has indirectly killed hundreds of thousands, and that's because it's illegal. And the indirect cause of death is people getting shot in botched drug deals.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, like Ron Paul always pointed out himself, that the number of people, he pointed out the number of people killed in the drug war in the last 5 years alone on the Texas-Mexican border. And that's not even counting all the other places. It's like 47,000 people killed on the Texas-Mexican border in drug-related crime in the last 5 years. And these illegal drugs, all these illegal drugs combined to kill, what, 20,000 people a year? So more people are dying in the war on drugs than are dying from the drugs.
And it's people are speaking here. I don't know about you guys. I've never done any drugs in my life outside of alcohol.
Yeah.
And so you would think, well, this doesn't affect you. Why are you so concerned about it? Well, yeah, it doesn't affect me because once they outlaw one thing that you can't put into your own body, they're going to outlaw something else because they have to make it safe. You have to be safe. I mean, if you don't believe me, they're talking about for decades. They've been talking about Twinkie taxes here in Illinois. They're talking about an extra tax on sugary soft drinks, and so yeah, you think they're not gonna? You think this isn't a slippery slope? You need to. God, I hate this phrase because conspiracy theorists use it, but you need to wake up and take a look. You need to take a look. This is the real conspiracy you should be concerned about.
Oh yeah, and it's the same thing with all these freedom of speech laws that you had in Sweden, one of my ancestral countries several years ago. You had a minister who was prosecuted for a hate crime for denouncing homosexuality. Well, all of us I know are gay-friendly people, but that nobody should be in jail for giving a different opinion on that issue. I mean,
this is an excellent topic for a segue for another issue I wanted to bring up.
Being a jerk is not illegal.
Exactly.
And by the way, I want to say the minister, while he was acquitted, the fact that the case even made it to court should cause people alarm, and that it happened in what's generally thought of as a pretty free country.
You want to hear the latest thing about hate speech? I just saw this morning about a half hour before we went on air. Clorox apologizes, deletes tweet after racial uproar. Clorox has apologized for a seemingly harmless tweet about emojis that sparked outrage on Twitter. The tweet, which Clorox since deleted, showed a Clorox bottle made up of the new emojis released by Apple as part of this week's iOS 8.3 update. Clorox tweeted, "New emojis are alright, but where's the bleach?" Apple's new iOS 8.3 release consists of 300 new emojis, including kissing lips, googly eyes, and a smiling poop. We wish we were making that up. But they also include racially diverse emojis, including cartoon faces with brown and black skin. In its tweet, Clorox seemed to be commenting on why bleach wasn't included among the hundreds of other household items that Apple had added to the list of emojis. But on social media, offense was taken. This is from Dree Nicole. "You need to clean up your PR person. Put some bleach on your distasteful marketing ideas," tweeted Dree Nicole. "Black emojis were added today. Saying this implies you'd rather emojis be only white by adding bleach." After taking down the tweet, Clorox followed up with an apology. "Wish we could bleach away our last tweet. Didn't mean to offend. It was meant to be all about the toilet, bathroom, and red wine emojis that could use a cleanup. We apologize to the many people who thought our tweet was about the new emojis was insensitive," said Molly Steinkraus, a spokesman for Clorox. "It was never our intention to offend. We did not mean for this to be taken as specific reference to the diversity emojis, but we should have been more aware of the news around this. The tweet was meant to be lighthearted, but it fell flat." Taco Bell released a similar but far less controversial campaign earlier this year in an attempt to rally support for a taco emoji. In a looming update to the emoji system for non-Apple devices, a non-profit organization called the Unicode Consortium that regulates emojis, among other computer text, is considering 37 candidates for new emojis. Finalists include racially diverse emoji faces, a zipper mouth face, prayer beads, a cricket bat, and a taco, but no bleach. People, come the freak on! Not everything is about race or politics or whatever. Of course, if you listen, you might think it's all about politics. But, I mean, come on. It's bleach. It's freaking bleach. Okay? They said that they had other household cleaning items as part of the emojis. It wasn't. Oh, gosh, people make me want to hit them with a clue-by-4.
Yeah, apparently black people never use bleach. It's just absurd.
They use OxyClean. No. Gosh, that was racially insensitive.
And I remember one time several years ago, I was on this is a little before Facebook took over, and when we had Yahoo discussion groups, and I was on a discussion group for the rock music group Kansas. The guy used the phrase mumbo jumbo, and then he said later in the post that the phrase was not meant to be a racial slur, and it's like, I've heard that phrase all my life. I've never associated it with racism, and you know, what made me mad about it wasn't the fact that the guy said it, but the atmosphere that made the guy feel that, you know, so many things are misinterpreted as, you know, as racism. And so I told this guy, and this is the way I operate, I said, if you say that, you know, black people should be thrown into a pile and burned, or at least that they should have to sit on the back of the bus, then I'll call you a racist. You know, I'm not going to write, you know, I'm not going to write, you know, racism or read racism into some innocuous comment like that.
And you know what's
funny?
I mean, is that what's funny is that when it's with all of the outroar from the social justice warriors or whatever they call themselves these days about terms like that, I've gotten scared to use the word black when it comes to people's skin color, and I would use the phrase African American because I think it's more sensitive. And I've actually had a couple of black people actually get offended by that because one of them was one family I used to go to church with when I went to church. They are refugees from Haiti, and they were so Republican they made Rush Limbaugh look like Hillary Clinton. and they're like, we're from Haiti. And another guy I used to work with who did turn out to be an asshole. I'm gonna have to bleep that out. He was like, yeah, don't call me African American. My family's from Cuba. And I'm like, you know, what the hell? I mean, we don't go around. And it's funny. There's a state park nearby. It's called Kankakee River State Park, and they have the little brochure, and it talks about Euro-Americans settling the area. And first of all, they weren't Americans back then. There was no country of America. It was this area was settled by explorers from Spain and explorers from France, explorers from Great Britain, explorers from Germany. I mean, we're all over the thing. And people were wondering why we don't have a. And the one thing that offends me, though,
you mean like the entire rest of the country?
I honestly don't have a problem with there being a Black History Month, but
I don't either.
But who was it? It was Morgan Freeman was like has a problem with it because he's why should our history be relegated to a month? And that's a very good point. And you know we don't have a white American History Month because we are just not. We're diverse. Everything is diverse. I mean, you don't have black people, you don't have Spanish, or you don't have Hispanics, you don't have Europeans. I mean, you have people that are a combination. I've got a friend whose last name is German, but she is mostly Hispanic and Indian.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we don't have a white American History Month. We have Oktoberfest, we have St. Patrick's Day, we have whatever holiday they celebrate in Great Britain, or Boxing Day. Yeah. I mean, we have all of these festivals, and I don't think people should be ashamed to enjoy or celebrate their heritage. I mean, I know there's a lot of libertarians and whatever out there that, well, you shouldn't. No, you should embrace your heritage. You should know where you come from. You should know your history. You should learn your history.
And know when you're a mutt. Know when you're a mutt and it no longer matters.
But don't collectivize people by saying, you know, African American or whatever or black. I would. Nobody knows. You know, my last name is Goebel. My last name is Goebel. Okay, it's German, but people don't realize that my family is also part Polish and part British.
Yeah, and you know, it's the same with me.
But
That,
you know.
Yeah. It's like for me, you know,
we're going to offend people with this topic.
No, but you know, and another thing, you know, and I happen to be Irish and German and Swedish, you know, a mix as well. Like when I'm involved in the local Swedish Heritage Society, and people always joke, you know, because my real last name is McAtee. It's like, oh, you're not a Swede, you know, and of course, you know, I am on my mother's side, but anyway, another problem I have with the phrase African American as the preferred way to describe black people is it implies falsely that all Africans are black, which is far from the case.
Right.
The point that I just brought up.
Yeah, you not only that, you mentioned that you have like blacks who are of Caribbean rather than African descent. You also have like, countries like Morocco, Egypt, Libya. You have basically people who are Arab rather than black.
Well, people of English descent in South Africa and stuff like that. They're as white as any of the three of us, and they're born there, African American.
Yeah, so basically it's a very significant percentage of the people in Africa are not black. And
one of the things though is that people are getting discriminated against in this country because of their skin color. That's a given. I mean, we know that's happening. There's been a lot of progress made. Yes. But there's a lot of progress that still needs to be made.
Yeah. And I know people personally that do. So, I mean...
Yeah, and it should be noted.
And we're not putting that down. There needs to be more progress made in that, and I'm going to support you. And I'm going to say, yeah, there is, but let's be honest here. Let's fight the real fights. Clorox is not a real fight. I mean, there were other household cleaning objects in the emoji set. Yes, and there shouldn't be bleach.
A bleach emoji that won't work on your Android device anyway. Who cares? Who cares?
We've got to pick the right fight.
Oh, and it's like
this is not the right fight. Economic justice, creating economic opportunity that everybody can enjoy. That's the right fight.
Yeah,
but bringing up about a fight, by being offended at something that really nobody's going to remember in 10 minutes, let alone 10,000 years. I mean, come on! I mean, people need to. Is the title of a book from one of my favorite self-help authors? Need to grow a pair.
Yeah, and another thing I mentioned, I think especially with all the stuff that's been in the news lately about about the Religious Freedom Act here in Indiana, and everything. I think gay people, especially, and I'm a gay-friendly person. I have many gay friends and associates. But I've been telling them lately they need to pick their battles, a lot more carefully. I mean, for example, recently I have a former classmate of mine who's a woman, openly gay. I had no idea that she was in high school, so I was rather shocked to find out. Not offended, just very surprised. And anyway, she runs a small business here in Indiana, about an hour south of here, in a town called Bissett. She and her girlfriend own a candy store together. And anyway, when we finally passed same-sex marriage last summer in Indianapolis, she put as the status update of her business, "Who's happy that we have marriage equality in Indianapolis, in Indiana." And anyway, she complained later on her personal page that she was receiving homophobic comments and asked what she should do about them. So I went to see what these so-called homophobic comments were. And anyway, she asked the question, is everybody happy about marriage equality in Indiana? 3 people said either no or no, I'm not. They didn't make any slurs, they didn't say anything hateful. They just gave their opinion that no, they're not happy about it. And then meanwhile,
no is an offensive word.
Yeah, and then to say, and that I think 17 people said yes. So a vast majority of the people were on her side. And then what I told her is, first of all these people did was give a different opinion. They didn't say anything hateful. And second of all, I said, if every gay person just concentrated on being the best person that he or she could be and showing people that, they're kind, generous, selfless, educated, responsible, productive members of society, that would create far more understanding and compassion and support for gay people than all the Chick-fil-A and Duck Dynasty boycotts.
Right.
The charges of hate speech are designed to do nothing more than to stifle discussion. And when discussion is stifled, we don't make progress.
Yeah, and I told this girl also, that's a great point you just made, Jim. And one other thing I want to add, I told this girl, I told her, you will never have 100% support of your lifestyle. And
I'm not clapping that they won't have 100%. I'm clapping that is the correct thing to say. That is reality.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is,
I don't have to be No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I told her, not only will you never have 100% public support, that shouldn't be your goal.
Bingo.
You have no control over what other people think about your lifestyle. None.
Even in a communist country where everything is controlled and you're scared to say whatever it is that you would like to say, you still you'll never have 100% support of anything.
Yeah, I mean,
even in North Korea, sorry to say that, Mr.
Yeah, nobody in the history of the world has ever had 100% public support. So why do gay people think that they should be the first,
Nobody's going to have 100% support. I guess, what's offensive to me is when I'm talking to conspiracy theory groups, or even anti ones, we get the occasional conspiracy theory shill come in, and they see my last name Goebel, and then they immediately call me a Nazi or say, "Oh, you're just like Hitler's propaganda minister because I got the same last name as him." I don't think that's offensive. I find that horribly offensive. But you know what? It's on Facebook. I can either do one of two things: either A, shut him down and call him names myself, or B, block him.
Yeah, ignore it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you just hope that people will, like I said, they just need to pick their battles. And I think what's especially discouraging is you have so many gays who talk about their rights, and yet they blindly support candidates, from the Democratic Party who are pro-war. Who support the Patriot Act, who are terrible on civil liberties. And I'm thinking, so if we have same-sex marriage, how much is it really worth if we have freedoms in all these other areas?
You know what I think one of the saddest things in regards to in regards to the homosexual movement, well, not movement, but this homosexual rights, is the fact that there needs to be an organization out there called Log Cabin Republicans, an organization for gay Republicans. That offends me more than anything else.
Oh man, you bring an interesting thing up. Like these guys support candidates that are, they might support them in one way, but they're opposed to everything else, and yet they vote for them blindly. Yeah, I mean the same thing happens in many other ways. You've got people that will vote for a candidate. One issue voting is the best way to get tyrants into office. But you have people that are vehemently opposed to legalized abortion, so they go for that candidate that is all about we need a constitutional amendment and this, that, and the other. And they're the first ones, well, not necessarily, but I mean they may be people that are right in the forefront. Yeah. I'm going to protect your unborn baby, but I'm going to march troops. I'm going to march troops into another country to kill everybody, including babies.
Against abortion, but support the death penalty. Hey, I got to clarify something about what I just said about being offended by the fact that there's a group out there called the Log Cabin Republicans. I'm not offended that the group is there. I'm offended at the need for the group. They should not be they should be being accepted by the political philosophy that they support. They shouldn't have to go off and form their own little group. They should, if the Republican Party is as big tent as they say they are, then they should be welcoming their homosexual constituents, their African American constituents, or whatever with open arms. I am offended not at the Log Cabin Republicans. I am offended at the need for the Log Cabin Republicans. No, I want to clarify that.
And another thing that I always point out, you want to talk about a big tent. Well, the big tent is the Libertarian Party, and just let me give you a couple of quick examples. Our first presidential nominee, John Husfers, back in '92, was openly gay, and I mean he was openly gay in 1972 when he ran. Back when being openly gay was a radical concept, when it carried an enormous stigma. And his running mate that year was Tony Nathan, who is a woman and a Jew, and they got one electoral vote that year. And basically, then you ask people who was the first woman ever to get an electoral vote, and almost everybody's going to say Geraldine Ferraro in 1984. But no, it was Tony Nathan in 1972, 12 years before Geraldine Ferraro, and 36 years, before Sarah Palin. And just like and Nathan's also the first Jew to get an electoral vote, 28 years before Joseph Lieberman. So the Libertarian Party has always been a big tent. We have people of all races. We have people who are, Christians. We have people who are non-religious, as well as followers of some of the New Age and Eastern faiths. And
I'm going to expand on something you said.
Sure.
You're saying the Libertarian Party is big tent. I'm going to expand on that. I'm going to correct you just slightly. The libertarian movement, the libertarian philosophy, not just the party, but all of the big milestones when it comes to electoral. When you're saying the first Jewish person, the first woman to get the first electoral vote, all being libertarian.
Right.
We have those landmarks, but it's the libertarian movement that is the big tent, not necessarily the party, because every political party is going to have their jerks, their dogs. So I shouldn't upset. I shouldn't insult dogs like that. They're jackals, but yeah, I just minor correction, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
You need only attend or watch it when it's on C-SPAN or something. A national convention of libertarian. You have people in the audience in three-piece suit, and there's hippies and people in bumblebee costumes, and I mean you name it, everybody is in this room.
Hey, by the way, did you see who declared he's going to run for president in the Democrat Party?
Who?
Vermin Supreme.
Who's that?
He's from New Hampshire, and every time he goes around, he always wears a boot on his head in public.
I see.
Look him up. This guy's hilarious. He's the only establishment party candidate I would ever consider voting for, just because he's weird. But that was our 5-minute warning. Oh wow, my volume is actually looking better now. So we need to start wrapping this up here. Going to read our end of show stuff. You can. Our main site for the archives of past shows is tsplive.com. The side project, we also have a YouTube channel, which I keep forgetting to mention about, so you can go there. We're in the iTunes store. You can hear us on radiofubar.com every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Central for the live audio feed. Or if you circle us on Google Plus or fan us on Facebook, we will post a link to the video. We're also on the TuneIn Radio on your smartphone, tablet, or your Roku box. You got 2 ways to reach us there. You can either search for the Side Project Live. We have our own channel there. And or you can search for Radio Fubar and get us and all of the great shows that are on Radio Fubar. You can hear the repeat of the show just afternoon on Sundays at 2evil.com. And if you'd like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/tsplive. You can make a low per episode donation. And right now I am in the market for a better soundboard. I think that's soundboard and or compressor. Maybe both if I can get them in one package. So if you'd like to donate, you can donate for as little as $1 a show, and to help us out a little bit. And there you go. So what do you guys got going on this week? We only got like about 2 or 3 minutes here.
Me, just looking for some more film jobs, and that's it. Also, I don't know if I mentioned it previously on the show, but I've been driving the last couple of months for Uber.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, anyway, it's...
I would consider doing that, but I don't know if anybody out here in Morris would...
That's the problem. Where you and I live, Jim, we're too far from where people want them and where Uber services.
You're closer, though. You're closer to Joliet. I think you'd have more luck with that than I would. I mean, you're in a metro... You're in the part of the Chicago area where you probably got about 200,000 people within 10 miles of you. Me, the whole of Grundy County is 40,000.
Yep. Yeah, it's I understand. It's only in metropolitan areas, as well as it's also like in they're starting to creep into college towns as well, where you have a lot of students without cars. Like, for example, they're very active in Bloomington here, which is not. I think the population of Bloomington's around 50,000.
Oh, you're in Bloomington now?
No. What I'm saying is that Uber has service in Bloomington. No, I'm still in Indianapolis.
Gotcha.
But Bloomington, where Indiana University is, they have about 40,000 students. They have the student body is about as big as the regular population, so they have heavy business down there as well, as they have so many students without cars.
Awesome. I like Uber, but they've gotten into some trouble recently with not with stuff with their drivers. Especially there was this case in India where I think one of the drivers assaulted somebody or something, but. I mean,
it happens with cabs too, and you don't get that.
It happens much more.
That's true.
With cabs, because with cabs you're picking up strangers. With Uber, everybody you're picking up has their accounts tied to a credit card. So
and they got a rating system too.
Yeah, you know, and
Yeah,
Uber
exactly.
is not the only game in town. There are others out there if you got a problem with Uber, and my problem with Uber is a political one. They are starting to form partnerships with states and cities and things to keep competition out. Oh, you mean
Okay.
cab companies. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
And,
Anyway, with that, we need to get going here. We're down to the last minute and a half. So once again, from Morris, Illinois, this is Jimmy G.
from Indianapolis.
Oh, there you go. Sorry. In Lockport, Illinois, it's Eric Ferguson.
And from Indianapolis, Lex Zorn.
And we will see you all again next week, next Saturday morning, and no idea what we're going to do yet. So, bye-bye.
See you.
Intro and outro music is the song Springtide by the band Springtide. Visit them at www.springtide.jp.